P.O. Box 700. That's P.O. Box 700, and that's Davenport, Washington, Davenport, like my last name, Davenport, Washington. Zip code is 99122, 99122. And that money goes directly into a bank account that is used for paying telephone bills, internet service, and everything but salary, unfortunately. But if they like to send 10 or $20 our way, it's a big help to us.
Oh, definitely. And speaking of which, the idea being that you are on the phone constantly with the UFO hotline there, we should basically, at this point, plug that phone number. It's probably one of the most famous phone numbers out there for reporting UFOs. I know it's in every FAA tower and military and civilian out there. So why don't you give them the phone number for the hotline?
Yeah, the hotline number has been the same for 44 years last month. It is area code 206 for Seattle, 722-3000, 206-722-3000. And if people call, I will invariably request that they follow up with a detailed written statement, and they can submit that written statement over our website, which is ufocenter.com. We have a blank online report form there. They can just fill it out and send it our way.
Okay, wonderful. That's good information to have. That's, like I said, probably one of the more famous phone numbers out there, 206-722-3000 for the UFO hotline out there at New Fork. But Bill, let's have you maybe start with your hotline phone number or how people can contact you, and then tell us how to direct them to your website for reports and how they might want to, donate some funds to your organization as well.
Let's start with the phone numbers. My landline is 406-422-0530. People can also text UFO reports to me at my cell number, which is 406-465-1370. And I don't have a contribution form either, but people can do it one of two ways. They can click on, when they go to my site, ufosnw.com, they can click on Contact Us, and my mailing address is on there, which is, UFOs Northwest, P.O. Box 4926, Helena, Montana 59604-4926. And most of my expense, the bulk of my expense is internet, paying for secure socket layers, paying for domains, and paying for malware protection. It's really getting to be very expensive just for the web hosting itself is a great bulk of the cost that I have. And so if you want to send me $10 or $20, it'll definitely go towards paying, keeping my information flowing out on the World Wide Web, which is, quite getting to be quite costly this day and age. So
yes, it is.
Any contributions would be welcome. So thank you.
All right. Well, we've got about 12 more minutes still to go here. Let's dig down deep and figure out who wants to go next with a unique sighting report. How about just keep this ball rolling, and we'll see if we can share some more info with the folks out there.
Well, I'm perfectly willing to let Bill go, but I've got a couple good ones right in front of me.
Why don't you go ahead first, Peter, and then I can go after you. Yeah, go ahead.
This is a report from Edwards, New York. On the 23rd of November, 6:15 p.m. local time, that is Eastern Standard Time, a woman was driving with her mother-in-law and her 2-year-old son back from shopping, and they were driving on a secondary highway near Edwards, New York. And they had to stop because there was a deer in the roadway. So the driver, the young woman, brought her car to a dead stop, and then started, after the deer cleared the highway, she started accelerating, went over a hill, and she became aware of a round object with yellow lights on it and a red light in the middle of the ventral surface of it. And it attracted her attention immediately. She realized it was anomalous, and she really began to get very interested when the object suddenly accelerated and moved from the right side to the left side of the highway she was on. And as it moved and passed over her car, she could see the lights on the ventral surface very precisely. And she started getting nervous and gunned the engine and got out of that area as quickly as she could. Very convincing report by my judgment, and it's very similar to another one just 3 days earlier from North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina. A woman was driving from Charlotte to Salisbury, which is northeast of Charlotte, about 50 miles or so, and she had a similar experience. So people are seeing these bizarre objects. In this case, I think it was a disc-shaped object was the opinion of the woman, but the pattern of the lights is clearly inconsistent with any kind of terrestrial aircraft. The lights on an aircraft are required, and they're defined by international agreement among nations. And a terrestrial aircraft should not have yellow lights on it. That's a very interesting fact that she cites in her report.
Well, yes, and you know what that reminds me of, Peter. I don't know if you've ever seen that comedy UFO series called People of Earth. It's actually it's located, at least in the show, in a small uptown New York called Beacon, New York. So who knows how close Edwards, New York is to that fictitious place. But the story is that this one driver's driving down the road and all he sees is this deer in the middle of the road with these large eyes, and then he, of course, doesn't remember anything after that, some kind of a missing time issue. But sure would be interesting to talk with that woman, because some people will say that these deer on the road or something like that sometimes could be screen memories that are implanted in them. And, of course, this was just prior to her sighting this disc-shaped UFO hovering over the road. That's an interesting case.
Yeah. One fact I didn't cite but would like to add to the case in Edwards, New York, as the object passed over her car, it illuminated the interior of the passenger compartment. And how it did that is not clear to me, because she doesn't indicate elsewhere in her report, she doesn't indicate that there were spotlights being projected down from this object. So it's almost like it was an induced illumination. As it passed over, it evoked some kind of illumination on the interior of the witness's car. That report is now posted to our website, again for the 23rd of November, last Friday.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. That's interesting stuff. And I have heard many times, I don't know if you have, Bill, but the idea that the interior of a car just lights up like daylight, even though it's a nighttime sighting. And they don't really say that there's a spotlight shining down on them, but the interior of the car, it's almost like the light goes right through the metal itself for some reason.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. I kind of calls to mind here in Montana, on Interstate 90, which runs through Montana. Of course, it runs all the way to the Seattle, right to the Pacific Ocean, or the Puget Sound. There's been a few cases near Alberton, Montana, which is kind of a small two-dot town, where people have reported on I-90 strange lights coming right up behind them and just illuminating their entire car and just disappearing. I've had 2 or 3 reports of that, right in that area for some reason. So I don't know, maybe that's hotspot or who knows, but I have had some of those reports here in Montana. You know, Peter mentioned a yellow lights case, and I have one here, Sacramento, California, November 18th, 2018, about 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. 3 sisters were outside, saw a flat pancake-shaped object with yellow lights, and they were outside, and the object was moving towards their house and then just abruptly vanished after 1 to 2 minutes. And the skies were clear at the time of the sighting, but I actually talked to them on the phone, and she was pretty freaked out by it. You know, and she said it was very, very visible, very stood out. You know, much in the from the background of the stars, it was very prominent. And I mentioned a little earlier in the show of another case of a photo where a person didn't see anything, and this happened on August 3rd, 2018, in northwestern Montana. And people can go to my other blog, UFO Sightings Montana, and they can look at the recent UFO reports postings on the right-hand side, and they'll see disc-shaped object found in photo in northwest Montana. And I don't think it's a bird or an insect because it's metallic. You can see the sun reflecting off the object, and it's a disc-shaped object. Very clear sky day. I mean, there's only one cloud in the whole photo. So, that was a case that came into MUFON, and of course I'm director for MUFON, so I put that on my UFO Sightings Montana.com blog, so people can kind of look at that. I think it's a very interesting photo. A lot of those photos that you get, people not seeing anything, find something in the background, can be explained, but this was taken outside, and so it's not taken through a window or anything, and I think it's definitely a disc-shaped craft. So anyhow, people can look at that case. It was 10:30 in the morning, Mountain Daylight Time.
Yeah, I'll have to definitely take a look at that. I just, I just love to look at photographs to see if there's any way I can debunk them myself. Matter of fact, I have some very unsophisticated, but I've got some apps that will Photoshop some of the photos that I can review. So you can, change the take some of the blurriness out and crisp it up a little bit. And so I'm definitely going to check that one out, see if there's any kind of thing because a lot of times when you'll tweak the photographs a little bit, I have an app called Avery, Avery, that does a lot of this crispness stuff that I'm looking at, and you can see a lot more detail sometimes if you play with it a little bit.
Well, some photos, nowadays with photos being taken with cell phones and, digital cameras, there's a digital signature that comes with the file, and at least partially from that digital signature, you can tell whether a photo's been edited or not. A good hoaxer could cover that up, editing, but generally if they edit it, it'll show up on the digital signature that it's been edited. But, and yeah, there's things you can do with photos. A lot of photos just aren't very reliable. I mean, people will take, send me photos of out of focus stars and they'll blow them up, and hey, I saw this UFO in the sky, and Peter probably gets some of those too. And I couldn't believe how many UFO sightings Mars generated earlier this year. I mean, many UFO sightings. Oh, that's a red UFO out there blinking, and man, I mean, my security cameras, Mars was so bright, and I didn't know this, but I thought that the only 2 objects visible during the daytime, well, 3 objects, were the sun and the moon and Venus. By gosh, my security cameras picked up Mars after sunrise one morning. It was so bright. 2 or 3, because I have it archived at 5-minute intervals, and there was Mars, a white dot. So That's how bright it was. So
what was the date of that, Bill? recently, did you say?